It seems like every time I turn the camera on, she wants to cry. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to Margot's birth story Q&A video. We're about a month and a half postpartum and I figured now is probably the best time to do her birth story. So before we get started, I'll show you her. She's a little sleepy right now and she's got the hiccups, but here she is. All right, so the reason why I decided to do a birth story Q&A instead of a birth story video is because I got a ton of questions after my birth vlog, and I don't know if that's like normal that people get that many questions or not, but I figured instead of just retelling the story, when I think I did a pretty good job at documenting everything in her birth vlog, I'll just answer the questions. So if this video is the first one you've ever seen of me, or you just didn't watch her birth vlog, I highly recommend you go and watch it now. I'll try to put it up here. If not, it will be down in my description box. Watch that one first. It's a tearjerker, and then come back and watch this one because it'll make complete sense. So I'm just gonna try to go through these questions as quick as I can because there were several, and I've combined several questions as well to try to make it go a little bit faster. These are all questions that I got either in my YouTube comments or over on Instagram. Question number one, and this question was by far the most asked question from my third trimester on. Why were you induced? Was it medically necessary? Why didn't you want to go in labor on your own? Well, to answer the last part, I just didn't want to go into labor on my own. I know people have mixed feelings about that. I didn't want to experience that. So there was that. But truthfully, the reason why I was induced was because Margot had a 2-vessel umbilical cord. With 2-vessel umbilical cords, it can cause low birth weight. It can cause other medical problems. And so my doctor felt that the best thing to do would probably be to just induce at 39 weeks as long as she was healthy and I didn't need to have her even sooner. That way, if they needed to get her, I don't know, fattened up a little bit, they could do it on the outside versus her being malnourished or underweight on the inside and just sitting in there not growing. That is why I was induced. I was induced with my son Sebastian at 40 weeks because he was not coming and I wasn't dilating on my own at all leading up to it. So they went ahead and got him out as well. Number two is, what medicine did they give you to induce you? The night I got there, I was given Cervidil, and then the next morning I was given Cytotec. I think I had about 3 or 4 half doses of Cytotec the following day. As the day went on, then I was given Pitocin. Number 3, what was your cervix at leading up to your induction? Were you completely closed or still firm? I was at a 0. That cervix was as closed as a steel trap, which was another reason why they wanted to go ahead and induce me, because they were worried that I wouldn't go into labor on my own before 40 weeks. And knowing that she had a 2-vessel umbilical cord, they didn't want to take any chances with her stopping growing and me not going into labor on my own. So those are the questions that I received about being induced as far as like what happened at the very beginning. The next questions are what kind of happened after things got going but before I was in labor, if that makes sense. So question number 4 is, why did they give you an enema? And in my birth vlog, I talk about getting an enema. I also was asked if it was required and why wouldn't they just let me go on my own? And the answer is they gave me a choice. They basically want you to try to go before you go into labor so that you don't poop on the table when it's time. And so they asked, could you go on your own or would you like us to help you? And I said I can go on my own. I felt like I needed to go. And if you remember back in the video, I walked around the hospital floor a couple times and the walk made me feel sick. The fear of me getting sick and possibly vomiting made, I guess, my need to use the bathroom tighten up, and I did not have to go anymore. So I just went ahead and asked for the enema so that we could get it out of the way. And somebody asked me what an enema was, and basically they just took cold water and pumped it up my rectum and made me lay there until I just couldn't take it anymore. And then, you know, you race to the bathroom and you go. And I went 4 times after that, and that is a lot of information that you probably didn't need, but you know, just in case you need an enema, it's completely free of medication. It's just water. I got a lot of comments saying I had a lot of medication given to me during my whole labor and delivery process, and it's kind of true, but the enema is just water. The next question is several questions in one, but it all pertains to getting checked. So it said, how does it feel getting your cervix checked? Why were the cervical checks so painful for you? I know everyone is different, but you were in tears. Even before we went to the hospital, just at my OB appointments, toward the end of my pregnancy, my checks were getting kind of painful. I don't know if it was just because she was putting pressure on it, even though my cervix was closed, or if maybe it just, I'm a weak person, I don't know. But my cervix had already kind of been in pain, but I could handle it without crying. If you get Cervidil, they will probably warn you, this is going to make everything inside more sensitive and it will probably hurt 1 or 2 times after you get it when you get checked. They warned me about it. I knew the pain could possibly happen, but I guess I didn't anticipate it being that painful. I'll be the first to admit that I have a low pain tolerance, but that put me in tears, and I really think it really had everything to do with the fact that the Cervidil had been in there. And I think I'd already started on Cytotec at that point too. And so just be prepared for that. If you get Cervidil, the checks may really hurt bad, and there's really nothing you can do about it except avoid getting checked. Number 6, did you get any pain or anxiety medication during labor? I don't remember getting any pain or anxiety medication. I didn't really have any anxiety. I was worried about vomiting, and they gave me Zofran when I felt sick, but that's not like anti-anxiety medication. They offered me pain meds after my epidural, and I said no. It started with an F, and it just didn't sound like something I wanted to have. But I don't think I did get any pain medicine prior to my epidural. And then the next question kind of ties into that one. Number 7, how did you seem so calm? You didn't seem like you were nervous about the pain. And truthfully, I wasn't really nervous about the pain. And that's more so because when I had my son Sebastian, I never really experienced any pain with his birth or labor. I kind of thought things were just gonna happen the same way, and I didn't anticipate having pain. I did have pain this time, but it wasn't anything that made me scared, I guess. I don't know. I feel like there were other things that I was, I guess, more worried about than pain. I was more worried about vomiting than anything else. Okay, so the next question, number 8, how soon can you get an epidural? At my hospital, you can get it whenever you want. You can get it early on, or you can get it at the bitter end. They said you can get it even at a 10, but like, why would you wait that long? I think I was around 3 or 4 when I got my epidural. You can kind of just get it whenever. It just doesn't make sense to do it too soon because it could wear off and they'd have to keep pumping you with it. I waited until I felt like it was the right time. Let's see, the next question, number 9. What was your experience with the epidural? How does it feel when it's being administered, and does it hurt? I love epidurals. A lot of people may be all natural moms, but that's just not me when it comes to being in pain during labor. For me personally, epidurals are great because they allow you to focus on other things and have a calm and cool head while you're giving birth. But I understand that's not everyone's feeling. How does it feel when it's being administered? It doesn't hurt, but it's an odd feeling. You feel like a tap in your back, and you can feel like the tube, and you can also feel like the medication, but it doesn't hurt. And you just have to be really still. I was having contractions while I was getting my epidural, and they were just kept saying like, be still, but it's just it's a weird sensation in your back. Question number 10, do you feel like you could have done it unmedicated? Yes and no. My biggest fear when it comes to not getting an epidural is the ring of fire when you're crowning and that head is going through. Like, I did not want to experience that. However, the labor pains, I had them this time, and I didn't really experience them with Sebastian's pregnancy just because I got my epidural really before a lot of the pain started. The labor pains I had with Margot's pregnancy were intense, but I have PCOS, and those period cramps that I've experienced over the years have been ones that have put me in tears. So in actuality, my labor pains felt like my period cramps that I've had in the past. The only difference is labor pains last longer and they come a lot faster than cramps. That's what really stuck out to me. I could handle the pain of the contractions, but it's when you don't have any time to rest in between, when they're coming 2 and 1 minute apart, that's when I was starting to get antsy and beg for that epidural. I probably could have handled the labor completely unmedicated. I just did not want to because I don't like being in pain. I don't know if I could have handled the birth being unmedicated. Number 11, did they redo your epidural since it only worked on one side? So in the video, I mentioned that the epidural only took down, I think it was my left side, and I could still feel everything from like my belly button over on the right. And that really scared me for the actual birth portion. No, they did not come back and redo it. They did keep asking me if I was in pain, pain, and said that if I was still in pain that they were gonna have to call the anesthesiologist back. But I said, no, I don't want them to call him back because I don't want him to keep going in and out of my spine. Then they asked if I wanted pain meds, and that was the one that I denied. It starts with an F, and it's already in the epidural. I just didn't want more of it because it can make the baby sleepy. They said she would have been fine with what they administered with the epidural, but having more probably would have made her tired, and I didn't want her to be born sleepy. So I just kind of stuck the pain out. But as far as feeling pain when it came time for pushing, I didn't feel anything. So even though I felt all of my contractions on the right side, I don't remember feeling pain when she came out, which is a blessing because I definitely was worried about that when I realized the epidural wasn't working everywhere. Number 12, did they break your water or did it break on its own? They broke my water. I also had my water broken with my first baby as well. That was another question I got because it just doesn't break on its own, or it wouldn't break on its own, so they did it, and it's not painful. At least it wasn't for me. With Margot's birth, they broke my water and she was born 5 minutes later, and it was a chaotic 5 minutes leading up to her coming out. Number 13, did I tear after 2 pushes or get an episiotomy, and did you tear with Bash? So after they broke my water, it was kind of chaotic, and I have another question about that in a minute. But like I said, go back and watch the birth vlog so you'll understand exactly what happened. But no, they did not give me an episiotomy, and I did not tear. I only pushed 2 times. She was out within about 20 seconds from the first push to the last. And then it said, did I tear with Bash? I had an internal tear that was like 1 centimeter big on the inside with Bash. It was very minimal. Bash slid out on his own. I did not push him at all. They said just because he came out so quickly that's probably why I had minimal tearing, and it was only on the inside. And with her, she also came out pretty quickly, but I didn't tear. How painful was the pushing? Like I said earlier, I did not feel any pain when I was pushing. Number 15, did the doctors look scared when her heart rate dropped and when she didn't cry? So in that 5-minute period, like I mentioned, and if you listen to the audio on the birth vlog, you can kind of hear them like rushing around and being very firm and serious. I don't know if they looked scared because my eyes were closed the entire time. I also had oxygen on my face at that point. They weren't yelling at each other, but they were definitely like very firm and forceful with each other to make sure like we got the show on the road, hurry up, the baby needs to come out now, her heart rate is dropping, like this isn't a joke, we need to get her out now. The next question is, did they ever mention her 2-vessel umbilical cord during the labor or delivery? And the answer is no. And then someone asked me if I saw it and if it looked funny. I did not see her umbilical cord because my eyes were closed. They took her away from me so quickly to try to like get her breathing and crying that we never did get to see the umbilical cord. Brandon didn't even get to cut it this time. They literally snipped it, sat her on my chest, told me to look up, and then they took her away. So now we are on questions about after the birth. This is a breastfeeding question. Does your hospital require you to breastfeed? And the answer is no. You can do what you want to do. If you just tell them like I'm not interested in breastfeeding, then they will, I don't know if they require you to bring your own formula at that point or if they, you know, give you some while you're there, but they won't really push you about it. I do remember though, we gave birth at the sister hospital when I had Sebastian, and they were a lot more pushy with the breastfeeding, but they knew I wanted to breastfeed, so I think that may have been why. Number 18, what was the hardest part about this labor and delivery? The hardest part honestly was going into labor. My body just would not go into labor, and a lot of people were like, you should have just let it do it on its own, but like I said, there was a medical reason for why we did it. It took 24 hours. Once my body actually went into labor, I was only in labor for 5 hours, which most of that I was asleep for. We were at the hospital for so long. I went in on a Wednesday night and she was born on Friday morning. Number 19, what is precipitous labor and birth? This was my situation with both of my children. I'm just gonna read you the Google definition so that I don't botch it. This type of delivery refers to childbirth after an unusually rapid labor and culminates in the rapid spontaneous expulsion of the infant. And number 20, and then we have a couple more quick questions after that. Did Brandon cry? And the answer is no, because he didn't have time to cry. It just happened so quickly. He did say later on, even though he didn't cry when she came out, he was very worried, then relieved when she finally started crying. Because like I said, it took her forever to start crying when she came out. He said that was when he started to feel more emotional. So I have 6 more questions and they are very quick answers. First question is, since you were GBS positive, did they have to do anything special for Margot, and is she feeding okay? They did not have to do anything special for Margot. I got my antibiotics. They gave me 2 bags of it and she came out completely healthy. No problem with GBS. I just keep an eye on her to make sure that she continues to grow. But as you guys can see, she is a big old healthy baby. She's about 11 pounds now and she's never had formula. What were my initial feelings about Bash not taking to Margot? And you guys, I'll link that video where he meets her for the first time. I'll link it below along with the birth vlog, and I'll put it here as well. He would not touch her. He wouldn't go near her, and consequently, after we brought her home, he wouldn't go near me if she was near me. And maybe a few weeks in, he finally kissed her on the back of the head, and now he loves her. He's all up in her face at all times, trying to kiss her in the mouth and touch her and just do all these, you know, toddler things with their new sibling. But it didn't really bother me because I kind of expected him to be a little bit funny toward her, but it took me off guard how funny he was. The only thing that does make me kind of sad was that I was never able to get like a photo of the 2 of them, just the 2 of them. And to this day, I only have one that I took probably 3 or 4 days ago where he held her for the first time. And we're a month and a half out. What were the main differences between your 2 births? With Sebastian and Margot both, I was induced. I had pretty much the same medication. However, with Bash, I only had 1 bit of Cervidil, and then the next morning I started Pitocin. With Margot, I had Cervidil and then 3 or 4 half doses of Cytotec and then Pitocin. With Bash, I went into labor quicker. I was in labor for about 11 hours with him, and with Margot, it took 24 hours and a lot of work. The births, like I said, were pretty similar. I did not have to push with Bash, and he came out quickly. With Margot, I pushed for, you know, 2 times 20 seconds, and she came out quickly. With Bash, like I mentioned earlier, I had a small minimal tear, and with Margot, I did not. Overall, they weren't too different. Neither birth situation was horrible, and if I had to do it the exact same way with both babies, I would. The next question is, did you enjoy your nurses and were they helpful? Yes, I loved my nurses, all but one. And she was like a Sour Patch Kid. One minute she was like not the nicest, and then the next minute she was super nice and we were laughing and joking. Number 5, I get this question all the time, and then 6 kind of ties into it. Will you have more babies? And the answer is no. I will not be birthing any more babies ever. And final question, since you don't want more biological children, did you or Brandon get fixed? And the answer is no, but I did get the Mirena IUD. Brandon will eventually get a vasectomy. It's just not at the top of our priority list right now with a lot of the other stuff we have going on in our life. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it made sense. Like I said, it would make more sense to anyone watching if you go back and watch my birth vlog than even watch her first 24 hours, which I will link that video. I think it's called like Toddler Meets His Sibling for the first time. Thank you so much for caring about and thinking about me and my sweet girl. If you like this, you want to end it instead? If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. We are so close, so close. I'm talking about like 15 people away from 30K. So please subscribe, tell your friends, share it with your family, go binge watch my channel if you have nothing to do during self-isolation. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.